Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
So, our purpose this evening is to provide an overview of digital citizenship, the impacts of social media, and strategies for parents and caregivers to support our children. And we hope that participants will be able to identify the definition for digital citizenship, the impacts of social media on youth, and safe social media and internet use strategies. So,
So our
our
agenda,
go ahead, Lisa. I'm so sorry.
all right, no, that's all right. Our agenda for this evening is we are just gonna do our welcome, review that digital citizenship, talk about that impact for social media on youth, provide you with some hopefully good strategies that you can walk away with and close out our session for this evening.
So let's start by thinking about what is digital citizenship. Just go ahead and type that in the chat, and we'll see if your definition matches ours. If you're just joining and you're having trouble finding the chat box, you should see it at the bottom of your screen if you're on a phone or a laptop, and it looks kind of like a thought bubble. Don't be shy, guys. All right. Well, that's all right. We'll keep moving. So, what is digital citizenship? Digital citizenship is kind of a set of skills for thinking critically and behaving safely when you are working in a digital world. And so many of our students are surrounded by a digital world every single day. And so it's important to really understand how they're expected to act and behave. And so, what we expect is that they engage in responsible behaviors. And that's what's so important for us to think about. And so we want them to think about things like our reputation and our Facebook, our privacy, our identity, our communication, how they're collaborating, how they are engaging in creativity and elaborating on different things. That's what's so important for all of us to be thinking about when we're thinking about what's good for our students. So you might be wondering how OCPS addresses digital citizenship. And that is a great question because if I was a parent, that would be one of our very, very first questions that we wanted to ask. And so there is a state and a federal law that tells us that we have to teach digital citizenship to our students. And those are called CIPA, which is the Children's Internet Protection Act, and COPA, which is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. And all students have to participate in digital citizenship courses to understand how to act and how to participate responsibly in an online world together because that's really what they're going to graduate into. And we even have a school board policy that requires us to teach students how to behave online, including with social media, in every grade level, 1st through 12th. So you might be wondering if we're teaching our students about digital citizenship, what are we teaching them? Because if I was a parent, and I am a parent of 4 girls, I would be really concerned and wondering, what are you teaching them? So we wanted to give you a chance to check that out. So every year from grades 1st through 12th grade, we use interactive Nearpod lessons in the first 2 weeks of the school year to be able to share information with students during social studies time. In 1st grade, they learn lessons called Pause and Think Online so that they think before they act. They also learn how to use their OCPS iPad. Um, They also learn how their technology helps make them feel, the internet traffic. They also learn how to be a trailblazer and how to troubleshoot and submit a tech request. In second grade, they learn about digital citizenship and privacy. And then in third grade, they learn about fake news and how sometimes it can be surprising to be able to see that something is not real when it's online. And so that's really important for them to be able to learn. They also need to learn about the acceptable use policy. And then they learn about basic troubleshooting, private and personal information, and keeping games fun and friendly in fourth grade. And finally, in fifth grade, when they're ready to go to middle school, they learn about some important things like using immersive reader and how that can help them be a better digital citizenship, finding balance, and also what cyberbullying is and basic troubleshooting tips. In middle school and high school, they learn about some more intense and adult-like topics. They do that by taking a special Canvas course at the beginning of each school year, and they go through 3 specific lessons. Some of the topics it covers is password plagiarism, cheating, sexting, posting information, online anonymity, sharing too much information, and email etiquette. Now, one of the things that has spurred all of these changes is that students in 6th through 12th grade now by law must be taught that social and emotional effects of social media, the negative effects of social media on mental health, and how sometimes you can distribute misinformation on social media. They also have to learn about how when they share things online, they last forever, they are permanent, and how to maintain personal security and how to identify cyberbullying and predatory behavior. Then they learn how to identify human trafficking on the internet and how to report suspicious behavior. What's a social media site that your children use? Let's all type some in the chat. Well, social media can be considered not just what you might think of when you think of Facebook and TikTok, but it can be things like social networking, blogs, or even some of the things that you use to create content and videos because you can leave comments and be able to be social on those different platforms. Lisa, tell us some fast facts.
Okay, so the U.S. Surgeon General just earlier this year put out a social media and youth mental health advisory. And in that advisory, we learned that social media is really just universal. Nearly 95% of youth ages 13 to 17 report using a social media platform. That means if we had 100 kids in here, 95 of them are on social media. That's huge. In 2022, there was some research done, and they found that the most commonly used social media site was YouTube, with a very large number, over 90% of children ages 13 to 17 using that site. 2/3 of our teens report using TikTok today, and about 6 in 10 teens and tweens report that they use Instagram and Snapchat. Smaller numbers of adolescents use things like Twitter and Twitch and WhatsApp and Reddit and Tumblr. But as you can see, they are definitely plugged in. One from the Surgeon General's report, it indicated that 1/3 of our youth say they are almost constantly online using social media. Where are our kids? They are plugged in and tuned out of our face-to-face interactions. When we look around and you are out in the community, you're at fast food, you're at ballparks and parks, sporting events, you see a group of individuals, most likely you see them engaged on their phone, even though they're right next to one another. Our teens spend so much more time on apps than they do in face-to-face socialization. Sitting right next to each other, you might have this happen in your own home. I've had it happen with my own kids. We're next to each other at the table or on the couch, and I think that we're engaging with one another, but they're online chatting with friends, looking up information, and engaged in that virtual world. So it's really just amazing that we have so many plugged in individuals at such a young age. And what's even more concerning is that nearly 40% of children aged 8 to 12 are engaged in social media use. And what's concerning about this is that the recommended minimum age for using those platforms in the United States is really 13. So students and children are getting engaged in this at a very young age, and they might be exposed to content or information that's not appropriate for them. So that brings us to just talking about some positive and negative impacts for social media. I will say there is a lot of positive to say about social media. There really is. There's good things that can come out of engaging. We know that we can stay connected with people when they move away. We can bring closeness to family and friends that might live in another city, another state, or across in another country. We can find new friends and new communities as well. So we can really kind of expand our social network, which is fantastic. There's also a way that you can promote and participate in worthwhile causes and raise awareness about important issues. We see a lot of activism related to cancer research and information, preventing animal cruelty, disaster relief, hunger relief, awareness about various disabilities that just bring things to people and share a wealth of information. You can also engage in so many amazing tutorials to really kind of hone in and develop some skills. For example, YouTube is a great way that you can learn to paint, you can learn to cook, you can watch a video on how to repair something. I know my nieces and nephews and kids have really developed a lot of skills in their own areas of passion watching these videos. My niece is big into volleyball and she watches videos to kind of learn different techniques and enhance her skills. My daughter watched all kinds of dance choreography when she was engaged in dance, and she was able to then use what she watched to develop her own dances and develop her skills in that area. My son learned to play piano watching YouTube videos, and he also learned how to repair cars and motorcycles. There's so much out there. You also can get engaged and learn about other countries and places in the world and visit them virtually. And this can either give you an opportunity to do those virtual visits or pique your interest for travel and exploration. So there is a lot of positive to happen in that digital world and that social media avenue. There's also, though, with all of those good things, there are some potential harms for social media. And as caregivers, we really need to pay attention to these potential harms. That Surgeon General report that I talked about indicated that as of 2021, 8th and 10th graders spend an average of 3.5 hours a day on social media. If we think about that in terms of like a school day, that's equivalent to a half a school day spent on social media. That's a large amount of time. The introduction of social media platforms may have contributed to more than 300,000 new cases of depression. So we need to pay attention that this is not just all positive. There are some potential harms, and this can negatively impact how someone feels about themselves. Sometimes social media encourages individuals to compare themselves with others, and this can really lead to some feelings of envy and dissatisfaction, and can have an impact on mental health and well-being. It can lead to depression, anxiety, and other psychological disorders. When we are comparing ourselves to others and somebody might only be showing the fun times or the great things about what's happening, it can make us kind of compare ourselves and use a ruler that isn't quite accurate. There's a lot of use of filters and Photoshop, so you're only seeing one side of things. It's one small snippet, but if that's what's only in your feed, it can make you feel like maybe everything in your life isn't going as well. Social media can also be a way to avoid problems and emotions. And so it can lead to some isolation for students, and they spend less time interacting with others and more time just isolated alone. For some kids, social interaction feels easier online, and in the context of a game or a forum, they are doing great. But for others, those online relationships and social media can be a way to avoid problems and emotions, which ends up isolating them. We also see that social media algorithms can reinforce existing biases, and this can lead to only hearing one perspective and losing out on broader ideas. So social media can kind of become very polarizing, or can seem like it's echo chambers with people only seeing content that confirms their beliefs. And this really leads to a lack of open-mindedness, which is really unhealthy. We see that social media can also help spread misinformation, and that is problematic because it makes it harder for us to determine what's fact and what's fiction. It can be a breeding ground for just spreading unsubstantiated news and rumors, and that can be very, very misguiding and lead to confusion, distrust, chaos, and that is definitely another problem that can come about with this. Our tween and teen brains are really vulnerable, and it is so hard for them to prioritize and filter out information that's coming at them 24/7, and they feel all of this pressure to be on all the time. And if they're on all the time, then they don't have time to take care of their own well-being and get enough sleep, eat balanced meals, get enough physical exercise, complete their schoolwork, get their chores at home done. So, you know, it can be an easy way to spend time, but you lose all the time that you need to do other things that are really important in your life. We do see that when you're behind a screen, you might engage in behavior that you wouldn't normally do if you were face to face with somebody. You might say or do something that you feel safer behind that screen doing, but your inhibition is down. So you feel like that's okay. And that can lead to some drama and some challenges with social relationships. So, you know, we see some harassment and some cyber stalking that can happen online. And we really want students and you as parents to be aware of this, because our children need to learn all of these strategies to be really wonderful digital citizens, like Marielle shared. And the instruction that we provide them in school also helps them to learn about how to maintain their privacy and personal information, because we really want to help them not have misuse of that personal information. our social media platforms collect a lot of personal data that then can get sold out to third parties, and we lose control of that personal connection. 8th and 10th graders, like I said, spend more than 3.5 hours a day on social media. What we do know from some research is that adolescents that spend more than 3 hours a day on social media face the risk of experiencing higher poor mental health conditions and outcomes. So we really want to help our children learn how to appropriately use this so that they don't fall prey to the potential harms of social media. These are, I think this is you, right, Mariel? Or is it still me?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take back over. And Lisa is so right. There are so many things that just are important for our kids to know about. I have 4 daughters that range in age from 6 to 20, and I feel like I deal with literally social media every day. And so one of the things I would be very interested in as a parent is whether or not you can access social media at school on our devices, because we give every student a device. And that's a really good question. So the answer is no. Actually, it used to be that high school students could access social media, but this summer, a new state law was passed, and it's called House Bill 379. And in House Bill 379, it says that unless we can make it so that we can turn on and off access to social media so that it's only for instructional use, then kids can't access it on a school's network. So now Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat and all these things are blocked from schools. But in addition to that, it says expressly that schools are not allowed to even advertise their events on TikTok. TikTok is a no-no, and so we keep our students safe by making sure that they can go and be on the internet without having to worry about running into social media. But there are a few social media-esque or like social media things that students do have access to and are allowed to use. And so we'll talk to you about what those are, so that you can be aware and talk to your students about that. I see, Rosalinda, that you would like to select another language, so you can click on the down arrow to do that. And I just put directions in the chat for you. So all of our students do have access to YouTube, but they access YouTube in a YouTube for Education platform. That means that some of the videos that you might be able to see at home on YouTube, you can't access here. We actually have to approve each video that we put on YouTube, and that's a lot of videos. The second platform that students have access to is Microsoft Teams. That's a video conferencing platform. And teachers can send messages to their class, but students can't talk to each other. Then they have access to all of the normal stuff that you might be used to, like Google Drive and Gmail and Google Sheets and Google Forms and all of those things. And you're probably thinking, that's not social media. Well, something that a lot of parents don't know is a lot of students use those apps as a workaround to not be able to access social media. So for example, you might have a middle schooler who opens up a Google Doc with a friend and they're chatting back and forth by typing on that Google Doc, and you're thinking to yourself they don't have access to chat, but they're actually doing it in a different way. So it's always important to be mindful. And then in middle school and high school, we do provide some limited access to Google Groups and Google Sites, but only at teacher request. So what are some important things to remember? Because we shared a lot of facts and statistics with you. Okay, so first of all, it's important to remember that we block all traditional social media sites on our networks and devices. 2, It's important to remember that students have the opportunity to collaborate on some platforms like on Google Doc or being able to send a message to their teacher in Teams. And whether or not they think it's social media, they need to be good citizens. Third, how much you use social media matters. People that use social media too much are the most unhappy. And I think we all probably know a few people like that in our lives. Also, teens use social media as a ruler to compare themselves to others. It's really easy to think about all of the great things we think on social media, like Lisa said, and imagine that everybody's life is like that for real. But I don't know about you, but when I take pictures of my house, I only take pictures of the clean part. And we have to teach our kids that too. And you have to remember it's difficult to be connected 24/7. And last but certainly not least, balance is key. Just like you shouldn't eat too many sweets, you shouldn't have too much social media. And it's important to remember that digital media plays a large part in mental health. I'm going to pass the ball back to Lisa.
All right. So, what can we do as caregivers and parents to help our children navigate that digital world? Well, we can educate ourselves so that we can support our children. And you guys are doing that right here. So you are taking that first step. Creating a family media plan, modeling social behavior that's appropriate, empowering our kids to be responsible online participants, and then reporting any concerns that there might be. So what does that mean to educate ourselves? Well, being proactive about learning about the different sites and apps and resources that are available to kids is one of the first steps. Being humble enough to know that there's a really large world of communication out there, and we might not know all about it. Educating ourselves about those popular sites that they are using, and then exploring them with our children. And then encouraging our children to be very smart and safe in their technology use. Our teens really are spending so much time on their devices and less time in face-to-face socialization. And we as parents might have thought, I'll just check their text messages and I'll know what's going on. But that doesn't really tell the whole picture about what's happening. And so educating ourselves about what they are using, what they are accessing is just really important. The next thing that we can do is possibly create a family media plan. And this is just a way that you can promote kind of some open family discussion about rules related to media use. This allows for some agreed upon expectations and really setting up those boundaries at home. It's not easy to do. And it's going to feel a little bit uncomfortable as you kind of try to develop this with your kids, but it's so important to try to establish some kind of plan before problems occur, because it will be much easier to do that. You'll want your plan to include expectations, some rules, how you're going to monitor, and then possibly even some consequences. The key here is really creating some balance for your kids and yourself. The plan can include kind of identifying some tech-free times or locations in your house. So some people might say, okay, when we eat, we don't use our devices. Other people might say, you know what? The bedrooms are off limits for technology. So it's just whatever works best for your family. Really kind of in that plan, prioritizing for yourselves some interactions that are completely unplugged. Restricting usage an hour before bed sometimes can help kids go to sleep better and also can keep them off their devices in the middle of the night. And then even possibly setting up like a central charging station. We know all of our devices need to get that battery juice going. So if they all get charged in one location, then people can't be using them when they're charging. So the other thing that you need to do in that family plan is really openly talk about those boundaries. What sites are they allowed to access? And let's name them specifically. Can they get on YouTube? Can they use TikTok? Can they use Facebook? What is going to work for your family? And then looking at what can and can't be shared. What information can they post? What can they say? Have those discussions about what is safe and what is appropriate. A good rule of thumb about posting is, would you want somebody to post that about you? Would you want that picture up there about yourself, or would you want somebody to say something like that about you before you're posting it about somebody else? And also just thinking about the future. You can always say, in 10 years, would you want somebody to see that picture of you up there? So just kind of having that conversation and starting that early. The monitoring and consequences are also really an important thing to lay out. And this is probably one of the most uncomfortable parts of developing a family plan, is having that conversation about how you're going to check up on what your children are doing. So when we are looking at this, it might be that you say, I'm going to, as your caregiver, I'm going to sit and we're going to go through your phone or your tablet or your computer together. And I'm going to do that every week or every other week or once a month. And this really is going to be an opportunity for me to learn more about the sites that you're using and allow me to monitor what you're doing and making sure that you're not unintentionally sharing some personal information. It's also a really great opportunity for you as a parent or caregiver to get to know the things that are of interest to your child. So you get to see what they're doing online, what they're learning about, what they're reading, and that can give open opportunity for more discussion. Make sure that you let your children know that it is about education and making sure that they're safe, and that there probably will be some mistakes that are made. And you as their caregiver or parent are just trying to help them. And so you can kind of lay out that, the first time something happens, consequences aren't going to be very big. But as they go on, if there's continued, mistakes that are made, consequences might increase. But really laying all that out ahead of time is very helpful. Another thing that you can do to make it maybe a little bit easier is connect with other families and see what their rules are. And kind of as caregivers and parents work together to kind of identify what are those things that we're going to all say our kids can and can't do. Because if our children's friends can do things that they can't, sometimes that creates some conflict with us. But if their friends' parents are saying no and we're saying no, then there is less conflict going on, taking into account what everybody is doing. Also giving your child the opportunity to say, giving you as the reason why they can and can't to do things with your media plan. Like, yep, just tell your friends that my mom said no, that's what our media plan says. Gives them kind of an out sometimes when they need to have that because they're being asked to engage in social media when they really shouldn't. The next thing that we can do as caregivers is just model that responsible behavior ourselves. We can set the example. Our kids learn behaviors and habits from the world they see around them. And that's what they see at their house, what they see in their community, what they see in their schools, what they see on television, what they see on social media. So if we try to model the behavior that we want them to show, we can really help them become excellent digital citizens. We can set a good example for what that healthy relationship with social media is like, and probably give ourselves an opportunity to unplug and reconnect with others as well. So being mindful of our own habits is really important. I know that it's super easy once I start to like look in on YouTube. It's one video after another, and pretty soon an hour's gone by. So it's good to kind of have those rules, and we all can kind of follow those as a family. One of the things, oh, oops, I think this is maybe, am I passing this back to you, Mariel? Or no, this is,
I think it might be mine. I don't Lisa and I have been working all day, y'all. So let's see. So the next thing you can do is empower your children to be responsible online participants. So one of the things that I think I struggled with a lot when my oldest three daughters became teenagers was balancing this idea of keeping them safe online and then actually teaching them what to do online. Because it's not enough to just say, don't do it or be safe. You really have to show them the positive behaviors that you can do. So, the first thing is obviously, just as Lisa and I have been talking about, discuss with them the positives and the negatives of social media, and also how to respect privacy and protect their personal information. Like my daughters didn't really understand the big deal about posting their birthday or taking a picture in front of our house that had our address behind it. They just couldn't see what that was a big deal. But then when we talked it through, they understood that that could be unsafe and that it wasn't appropriate. So that's really important. So, having a conversation with children about who they're connecting with, their privacy experiences, and who they're spending time with online. My rules for my kids are if I don't know them in real life and I haven't met them in real life, or I haven't talked to them on the phone, then you shouldn't be talking to them online. And that helps them because a lot of times they'll meet like friends in an online game like Minecraft or something like that, or even in Instagram or TikTok, or someone will message them and I'll say, hey, listen, like you don't even know that person. I don't know that person. And that helps them to understand those things. I also talked to them about creating online social media profiles together. So this was another one that made me really nervous at first. Like, do I even want to see what their profile looks like? Yes, yes, you do. And the reason for that is that when your children graduate high school, there are going to be a lot of people in the world who go ahead and look at your child's social media platform, and they're going to be able to say, okay, this is what I judge you to be like based on that platform. And a lot of times they don't even realize that that's happening. So, for example, when your child applies to college, and I have a senior this year and a sophomore in college, many of our students don't realize that they are going to have the opportunity for college admissions officers to search them online. And you don't want them to judge whether or not they want to let you into college based on the bikini picture you posted or whatever. And anything that is not locked down is accessible for other people to use. So, how do you combat that as a parent? Well, we recommend that every high school senior leave with at least one intentionally created social media profile with their parents. And so, by that, I mean that it is very important that your child leave with a LinkedIn profile or a Facebook profile that's like their professional profile, the one they want to show the world. Okay. And so on LinkedIn, there are actually really specific ways that you can do that with your student. And they call it a student profile. And you will want to make sure that they have a profile photo, that they have certain things listed. For example, what kind of school they're searching for, and about you that's kind of like a bio about yourself, your education, which can be your high school, if you were on honor roll, all of those different things. They want to add their volunteer work. And they also want to go ahead and they want to make sure that they are going to go ahead and list any actual jobs that they've had in high school, any clubs that they've been interested in, their interests, all of those things you're going to want to end and make sure that you include. And that's almost going to be like your online college application or your online resume. And one thing that I found really surprising compared to when I started high school in the 90s was that now college recruiters look for their best students through social media. I thought that was crazy. In fact, Harvard actually searches for its top 100 candidates on LinkedIn every year. That's insane to me. And I didn't even have social media as a kid. And I'm actually pretty glad I didn't, because a lot of the things that I did in high school and college, I wouldn't have wanted necessarily others to know, right, when they judged me for my college application. So that's really, really important to think about. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to post in the chat for you guys a link to a great article that is on LinkedIn that tells you exactly how to create a LinkedIn profile for your child. And then there's also an amazing Vimeo video that shows you step by step how you can do that as well. All right, so other things that you can, oh, I'm sorry, this is definitely not mine. This one is Lisa's.
No worries. We're a team. So we talked about some of the benefits and the harms of potential harms for social media. And I'm sure as a parent, you're sitting there saying, so what do I do to help my child combat comparison or combat pressure? And so what's important to start with is just empathy and validation. Their feelings are real. And so those feelings about comparison, they exist. And so we think we might be able to say, oh, don't worry about that. You're pretty. Don't even pay any attention to what somebody thinks about you. But it might be more beneficial to say something like, wow, I know it's really hard when it seems like everyone looks like they've got it all together and they're always looking good. But these pictures, they just show one piece. And we can't compare ourselves to just our whole selves to just one piece of someone else. And you can be honest with them and let them know that you recognize that social media can make them feel like they're always on display, or that they're having to try to reach an unattainable standard, and that takes a lot of energy to maintain like this illusion of perfection, or to even try to achieve this level of perfection. So just listening and being empathetic and saying, yeah, I can see how you feel like that. There's something that's called the duck syndrome. The Stanford researchers coined this phrase. When we think of a duck and they're like floating on the top of the water and it just seems so effortless and they just look like they've got it all together, but underneath the water, they're like, their feet are going like this, and they're frantic to keep themselves afloat. And as caregivers, we can kind of help our teens and tweens remind them that what might look effortless at the top might still have a whole bunch of struggles and insecurities underneath. Sometimes we have to remind them about, you know what, that could totally be filtered or photoshopped. I know what my pictures look like. I know what I look like in real life, But I can tell you, my daughter can put some filters on and make me look in a way that I have never looked in my lifetime. So just really kind of remembering that this is real life, and that there are imperfections, and that what is online is not always all real. So just kind of having those conversations again and validating. When it comes to pressure, you know, our teens and tweens, there is some fear, that fear of missing out, that FOMO, you know, we got to be on all the time because you just never know when something great is going to happen, and we'll miss out on this one time that it ever could happen in our whole life. And so again, just being understanding that these feelings that they're having are real, and just validating that it is tricky sometimes, and it's hard to say, you know what, I'm just going to turn off notifications. But part of what you can discuss and part of what can be included in that family plan is downgrading some notifications, or turning off some of those banners or sounds or notifications at certain times during the day, and having those no device spaces, and again, giving them the out to be able to kind of blame you as the parent. Sorry, I didn't answer you right away, but you know, my mom, she doesn't let me use my phone after 9 p.m. And that just gives your children an opportunity to kind of follow your rules and stay disconnected for a bit. The other thing that we want to help to do is combat isolation and drama. You know, our kids, these are all real things. And again, listening, just listening and validating is one of the most important things that we can do. We don't necessarily always have to solve all of their problems, but we can listen to how they're feeling, and we can just say, yeah, I can see how you're feeling like that. So one of the most effective ways to help with that drama is just validating, but also to help our kids avoid starting the drama. Helping them to think through what they're posting, what they're saying. Do you really have to comment on that? Is that what you're wanting to say helpful? Is it kind? Is it going to lead to something else? And giving that opportunity for conversation. Helping them to try to figure out ways to work out conflict and avoid misunderstandings is really important. If we know that, or we suspect that cyberbullying is taking place with our kids, that might be a time where you're going to need to intervene. And especially if you feel like there is a situation where they are being targeted. And so you might need to get involved with law enforcement or reporting this to appropriate authorities. In terms of isolation, really, again, staying calm and reasonable, and trying to figure out, why are they isolating? Is this a pattern that's always been the case with your child, or is this something new? Social media can lead to some changes, and so we want to pay attention to those. Has there been a life stressor that is causing some changes in the behavior of your child? Do you know why they are isolating? And just kind of getting as much information as you can, trying to see whether or not they're using games or social media as a way to escape from circumstances, or you know, just are they getting involved with people online that they don't know, that might not be safe to be involved with, or are they just spending all their time in interest-based chat forums? So really kind of helping to figure out why they are just isolating into that, and helping them to deal with trauma and conflict and problems and being online is really a wonderful way that we can help our kids be better digital citizens. We have a lot of resources here in OCPS. Our student services staff is a large team. We have school social workers, we have school psychologists, we have school counselors, we have licensed mental health counselors, and we have a lot of different team members that can be a support to your children. And the QR code that's on the screen is a link to our assignments. So your school has all of these individuals, and that link will take you right to all of their assignments so that you can find out who those people are that serve your school. If something's concerning you about how social media is affecting your child, or if you feel like your child has had a significant change in behavior or emotions and you need some support or some help related to their mental health and well-being, you can reach out to us for support. Some common signs of challenges include that withdrawal from family and friends, significant changes in behavior, either better or worse, a loss of interest in things that they used to be involved in. If you notice any substance abuse, drugs or alcohol, significant mood swings, if you see or hear them being really hopeless or just feeling like nobody cares about them, those can all be warning signs for needing to get some additional mental health or well-being support. And so you can access that through our district. Now, our district also has in place some really new technology monitoring that really helps our students stay safe with our platforms. Marielle earlier shared with you all of those platforms that exist here in the district, and those are ways that students can get on social media-esque sites and they can communicate. We have partnered with Gaggle, which is a company that helps us to support student safety and well-being. And it monitors all of the use of those sites. And so this allows us to proactively ensure that our students are safe and correctly using our school-provided digital tools. So this only monitors them on our own OCPS devices, not on their personal devices, but it uses a combination of technology as well as human intelligence, trained safety experts to review what students are doing with their OCPS issued student accounts, and they provide a real-time analysis of any potentially concerning behavior or content. And so when they notice something like that, Gaggle alerts school officials, and if the student shows any kind of sign of self-harm, depression, thoughts of suicide, substance abuse, cyberbullying, any kind of credible threats or violence against others or any other kind of harmful situations. They will alert, and then we have staff that take action on that here. So it's another layer of protections that we have and another way of monitoring what our students are doing so that we keep them safe. And I think I pass that back to you, Marielle.
Yes, ma'am. So we have some ways for you as a parent to be able to report cyberbullying and online abuse and exploitation if you do see it, which of course those are our worst fears as parents, but always something we want for you to be able to know what to do about. So, first thing is locally, you can always report something to our local law enforcement. Our non emergency line is 407-836-HELP. And they can take any concerns that you as a parent have about anything that might be happening online. You can also report something using their online system. In addition, you can also visit the cyber tip line or take it down to be able to ask for any private images of your child to be able to be taken down from the internet. Kids make mistakes. And as difficult as it is for parents to know that those things happen, it is necessary for you to be able to react in a way that's calm and non judgmental. If you freak out, they're not going to tell you, and it could create the situation and make the situation much worse. And so, if your child is ever in a situation where they have posted something inappropriate online, or perhaps something has been shared without their consent, then there are avenues for you as parents to be able to deal with those things. And so, one of those is the Take It Down site, and the website is there. We'll put it in the chat for you. And then, if your child or you ever encounter somebody online who seems like they're being exploited or trafficked or something doesn't seem right, you can always report that through the cyber tip line at 1-800 The Lost. Last but not least, work with other parents in your community to talk about healthy social media use. As Lisa mentioned before, when you work as a community, it makes you seem less like the person who has the crazy rules, right? Because we're all just trying to keep our kids safe. So when you're talking with your local PTA, with your local SAC, with your local church group, with a local mom or dad group, really begin those conversations about those healthy norms that we want to have for our kids, and so we can all set and implement those boundaries together. So, I did tell you that I had 4 kids, and so this is clearly hair dye and oil of Olay, okay? Because there's a lot of internet use in our house and a lot of girl drama. So I always like to tell my mom friends that the best offense is a good defense, okay? So you are going to spend probably a long, long decade trying to help your children manage the internet from probably ages 12 to 20. And so I recommend that you really take out your manual, so to speak, and check out your home internet provider. So sometimes it's much easier than fighting with your kids to just set the boundaries in advance. The same way that when we were younger, your parents might have had the rule that you come in when the street lights come on, or lights out at 10 o'clock. You can turn the internet off at a certain time in your house. Yes, that is for real true. And I absolutely do it. And so if you have AT&T, you can check out their smart home manager that comes, with your internet service that allows you to set some of those policies for when the internet works and when it doesn't work in your house. You can set screen time limits, things like that. With CenturyLink, it's called Secure Wi-Fi, and with the Spectrum Security Suite, that one is in orange because that one only works if you download it onto your Windows device. And I don't love that because sometimes that then creates a whole nother barrier for you as parents. Whereas AT&T and CenturyLink, and then Xfinity and Comcast Wireless Gateway, you can use those right from the app and control the internet in your house. And to me, that's much better than me having to try to download something on someone's device. Another reason I put that one in orange is that you can't download anything on our district devices. So if you're having a hard time with your child using their laptop late at night, that might not be the right solution for you. So what do you do if you have a provider that's not listed on one of those things, right? It happens. Some of you live in areas that is not serviced by one of those common cable providers. Well, there are 2 other options that are out there for families. We don't endorse either one as Orange County Public Schools, but I wanted you to know about them. One is called Bark Home, and that ranges from $7.99 to $14.99 a month. And in essence, what it does is it's something you plug into your router that sets additional controls on top of it. And you can manage that the controls from your Bark app on your cell phone. Circle Home Plus, and you might have heard years ago that it was called Circle by Disney, is another version of that. It's $9.99 a month, and you can plug that into your router, and that also allows you to filter usage, set bedtimes, set limits, set downtimes, those kinds of things. Now, I will just point out that with both of these things, sometimes they slow down your internet a little bit because they're a service you're putting on top of your internet. So just remember that it's always best to use the parental controls that come from your internet provider. But if they don't have any, this is definitely a good option for you. And definitely something I would recommend for all teenage parents for sure. Now, what about if your kids aren't home, right? Or if the issue you're having is them being on social media on their cell phone or laptop or tablet or whatever you've given them that you're paying for data for, right? Well, that's a little trickier, okay, guys, because that's different than managing the Wi-Fi in your house. So if the issues that you're having are mobile related, you're going to need to look at the parental controls for your cell phone plan. So here's a couple things. First of all, remember, as Lisa said, that your kids really shouldn't be on social media unless they're 13 and over. I recognize that every family makes different decisions, but that is the terms of service. So if you're trying to block your children from being able to download an app or limit the types of content they can see on their cell phone, then you can do that through the Apple Family or the Google Link, but you can also do it through AT&T's Secure Family, which allows you to, in essence, do the same thing we did with the Wi-Fi. So you can turn off your child's cell phone. You can tell them they can't use it after 9 p.m. You can tell them they can only watch YouTube for 2 hours on their phone, whatever. That's $7.99 a month. T-Mobile, or if you used to have Sprint, they have something called Secure Wi-Fi, which does similar things for about $10 a month. But by far the best in class parent controls actually come from Verizon, and they have something called Smart Family. And you can look at your child's screen time usage. You can look for certain keywords that might come up that might be something that's a concern for your family. And they have two different versions of this. It's a basic and a plus. And that's $4.99 to $9.99 a month. Now, if you use prepaid cellular service, which I know a lot of us do for our kids because it's an investment, right, to buy an expensive cell phone plan, do be aware that Boost, Cricket, Mint, Visible, and US Mobile do not have any parental controls. So you need to make sure you talk to your children about online safety if that's the case. Okay, but we're here to talk about social media. So is there some magical way to control what your kids do on social media? Let's go back to what Lisa said. It all starts with a conversation. If your kids know that you are snooping into their social media, they will work really hard to hide it. Even though you think they might not, it's natural, right? Think about it. If somebody goes to look in your purse, what's your first response? No, I want to hold it back because it makes you feel like it's an invasion of your privacy. But there are some things you can do that have come out since the pandemic, when we all know kids were online a lot, that really help parents manage social media for kids ages 13 to 17, okay? So first, TikTok rolled out this new thing called family pairing. And what that allows you to do is it allows your teen and you to pair together so that you can help monitor some of their security settings, like who they're sharing content with, and be able to see if anything that is potentially objectionable is shared with them, things like that. Now, what it's not going to do is let you see every TikTok they make, because each of these online providers has made a commitment to honor the privacy of their user, but it does allow parents to place restrictions on the account and teach their teen to set limits. So you can see, which I think is really the most important thing, because if you hold kids down under your thumb the whole time with social media, when they get to college, they won't know how to manage it themselves. So it'll help you look at, for example, the amount of time they've spent on it each week and have a conversation like on Friday, like, hey, listen, you've spent 20 hours on this week. I think we're going to need to call that quits, okay? Because you have a research paper due. YouTube has come out with something similar, and this is different than YouTube Kids because I know for a long time everyone was like, well, YouTube Kids is for babies. Yes, it kind of is. But they now have a new version of YouTube that you can set up for your children that is designed to help support teen well-being. And I'm super excited about this one because YouTube is literally like the most ubiquitous social media known to man. Everybody is on YouTube, including us, right? So what it does is it allows you to set reminders for your teens to take a break. So if they've been watching YouTube for a certain amount of time, it actually pauses and says like, hey, listen, you've been on this way too long, take a break, which I think is really helpful. It also sends them a notification if they're watching it past their bedtime, meaning if you do allow students to keep their phones in their room, which Lisa and I do not recommend, but if you do, and they are watching TV late into the night on YouTube, it will say to them, like, listen, you are going to be exhausted in the morning. We're going to need you to go ahead and turn this off. And those are automatically set for 10 p.m. and or what you said as a parent. And the other thing that I love about this is that it doesn't automatically play the next video. Okay, have you ever been watching YouTube and then another video starts and then another video starts and then like suddenly 2 hours of your life are gone? Well, it prevents that. So it forces the teenager to actually pick the next video so it doesn't become as addictive. Instagram also rolled out something just last year in 2022 called Instagram Supervision. Okay. So this is another kind of like middle ground. Okay. So what it does is it allows for you to set up controls together. It allows for you to be aware if your child gets a message from a stranger. It allows for you to know if they've posted something that could be considered adult content or adult content gets shared with them. Here's what it doesn't do. It doesn't automatically show you every Instagram post your child makes. You still have to follow them on Instagram, and it doesn't show you all their private messages. So it kind of tries to balance privacy and safety. It only tells you about the messages that are unsafe. So it's kind of like Gaggle, but for parents. Snapchat also wrote out something called Snapchat Family Center. And what that does is it allows you to view your teen's friends. That's important because most people on Snapchat are friends with like 8,000 people they don't know in real life. So that's important. And it allows you to see who they've messaged without necessarily telling you what they've messaged. So if you see that they're messaging people in another country or another state, that's probably a red flag. And it's going to allow you to restrict sensitive content and report any abuse. So if you know that there's another teen who isn't 13 on there, you can report that and they'll shut that account down. Okay, so what else can I do? If that still doesn't seem like enough for you and you feel like, I don't know, I just kind of want to be in the know and I don't want to manage every platform separately because it can feel a little bit like whack-a-mole. I mean, I'll be honest. With 3 teenagers, I spend a lot of time whacking things around. So Bark might be a better option for you, okay? Again, we don't recommend this as a district, but we always want to educate families about their options. Bark is basically an app that you work with your child and you download it onto their phone. And it allows you to monitor all social media platforms at one time. So all of them, which is kind of great because then you don't have to worry about the settings for each individual one. Again, Bark is not going to let you be like a what your kids might think of as like a cyber snoop. You're not going to be able to scroll through their profiles. It does the same thing as Gaggle. So, for example, in this image, you'll see that it sent the parent an alert because they found, as they were looking at the site, that there was some potentially predatory behavior happening. Somebody that the child didn't know sent them a message saying, "You're very mature for your age." So it told the parent it happened, and then that prompts the parent to go and talk to the child about it. So it's basically like your second set of eyes. It's looking for all of those things that you're worried about, and you can help set those limits so that they're right for your family. Now, they say with great power comes great responsibility. You're going to get a lot of alerts. And with teenagers, they talk about the same things that you talked about when you were a teenager, and you might not want to respond to every single one of them. But there's going to be some things that you do want to respond to. Because this allows you to monitor everything and it has a ton of features, it's also a little more expensive than those other things. It's $14 a month. So for some people, that's a lot of money. But it would definitely be helpful if you had multiple teenagers at one time, like me, because then you can see multiple kids at one time. You'll make the best decision for your family, but know that help is out there. And if you're looking for ways to help monitor social media and really learn about what your kids are doing in a way that respects their privacy, you have those options. Now, what do you do if you see you need some bigger and better help? Well, Lisa's going to tell you about literally the coolest service we have in OCPS that not everyone knows about.
So we have a Community Connect, which is a search engine that allows you to search for a variety of different resources in the community by zip code. So instead of getting on Google and just searching, if you go to Community Connect, you know that these have been checked out. We partner with Find Help, and they are the ones that power the site, but our Community Connect site does allow you to search for food, housing, resources, healthcare, childcare, mental health services. Again, if you are looking for mental health services for your children, please use that other QR code with our student services assignments and reach out to your schools. But if you need something for yourselves, these are all done. You go to the site, you type in your zip code, and then you can search using either some icons that are at the top, or you can type in some keywords in the search bar, and it can help lead you to a variety of different resources for you and your family that you might need. I think we're like over time, so I want to thank you again for really just spending the evening with us and taking time away from your family and your other responsibilities to come hear about the benefits and challenges of social media. I think we've answered the questions that were put into the chat. If anybody has any other questions on the session, they surely can type those in. And I think we're going to just wrap up at this time. Here's our contact information, both for Marielle and myself. Again, we are so appreciative that you took the time to spend this evening with us. And we appreciate you wanting to partner with us as we help develop awesome digital citizens that can grow up and be really very well-versed in the most appropriate ways to handle the digital world once they get out of school. Marielle?
Thanks everyone for coming. And if you would like to join us at our next Parent Academy, please visit us at parentacademy.ocps.net, and we'd love to see you at another session. Have a great night.